LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Now listen. I love the phrase waxing nostalgic, which is a fancy way to say yearning for the past. Of course, this is not to be confused with waxing a car or waxing the pesky hairs out of one's ears, nose, or one's privates. Waxing or waning is also used to describe the moon getting bigger or smaller. Nostalgic is, of course, the feeling of wistful, sometimes bittersweet affection for a previous period in one's life. But let's be real, not all periods in one's life are worthy of waxing, or being wistful over for that matter. No, some periods you'd rather just not remember at all. Yet those seem to be the memories that come back to haunt you in the middle of the night. It's like there being nothing else on TV but awful reruns of Hee Haw, and you just can't seem to change the channel. Nostalgia has always been big business in showbiz. I think about it. It seems every 10 years there's a big TV show that cashes in on the nostalgia from about 20 years or so before. Happy Days in the 1970s glorified the 1950s. The Wonder Years in the 1980s capitalized on the nostalgia about growing up in the 1960s. If you were a pop star, you probably broke through when you were young, as were your record buyers. Eventually, they tired of you. You became passé, and the record buyers moved on to somebody else. I have a hypothesis, and I think I'm right on this, that if you have become a has-been, but are able to survive, not go off the deep end physically or financially, that in about 20 years' time, you too can have a renewed career. Those formerly young record buyers are now old themselves and desperately waxing nostalgic and clinging on to some semblance of their youth. And more than likely, they now have money to pay the huge ticket prices and merchandising and thus finance the late career renaissances of Barry Manilow, Journey, Stevie Nicks, and Cher. When we were kids, we put together these things called time capsules that contained bits and pieces of life as we knew it. It was 1976, the bicentennial, and I put together a box of everyday items. Old copies of Tiger Beat magazine with Charlie's Angels and Starsky and Hutch on the cover. Programs from our garage theater productions of The Star-Spangled Girl and Boeing Boeing, and God knows what else I thought would want to be preserved for infamy. I buried this in the backyard in Urbandale, Iowa. Our tract housing lots didn't come with garages when we bought them, and when my dad built our garage, along with help from the neighbors, it was like an Amish barn raising, only involving cases of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Over where I had buried my time capsule, they poured a concrete slab for our trash cans that had my brothers, sisters, and my handprints pushed into the cement. This forever entombed my time capsule like a Timu Gramun's Chinese theater. Now, as far as I know, nobody has ever discovered our time capsule on 71st Place. According to time capsule historian William Jarvis, most intentional time capsules usually don't provide much useful information. He claims they are typically filled with useless junk that tells little about the people of the time. Historians suggest that items which describe the daily lives of the people who created them, such as personal notes, pictures, videos, and documents, would greatly increase the value of the time capsule to future historians. I think Tiger Beat magazines qualify. As I've mentioned in several episodes, a little over a year ago, at 62 years old, I retired from a day job that I had for 22 and a half years. I don't really like using the term retired because, as my godfather said, it's not that I retired, I just got a different life. In my case, I said goodbye to attorneys and legal technology, and if I never have to hear the words AI or Microsoft Teams again, I'll dance a jig naked in the yard. A year ago, I set out on this new life path, and I have to pat myself on the back, as I've accomplished most of what I set out to do. But there are those pesky items on my retirement to-do list that I kept saying, next week, I'll get around to that. Next month. And I never did. So this year, on my 1-year anniversary, I had a talk with my procrastinating self. Self, if you are not going to do these things, then you have to pull them off your list and be done with it. It's okay. But wait, myself says, you've been talking about these for years. If you don't get to them this year, then you can abandon them. So this year begins Retirement 2.0, a slight revision to the past. First up is getting through these boxes that have been sitting in my very hot garage for decades. One huge project in particular that I had promised one day I'll get to these is the Uncle Tom tape project. These are a collection of 48 cassette tapes, mostly from between 1970 and 1974. My Uncle Tom was drafted into the Army during Vietnam in 1970 and served 2 years in Saigon. Lucky for him, he avoided the Apocalypse Now experience and instead scored a writing gig with the Stars and Stripes newspaper. In fact, he loved Vietnam, its people, food, culture, and the girls. We had no text or internet or email in those days. He bought Panasonic tape recorders in Japan and had them sent to his parents, my Grandpa Lloyd and Grandma May, who were back in Sioux City, Iowa. He also sent tape recorders to my family and my cousin's family. We all recorded letters on cassette tapes and sent them back and forth to each other, most of them sent to Uncle Tom in Vietnam. He managed to hold on to this vast pile of audio tapes, and after his untimely death in 1994, they ended up in my when I have nothing else better to do pile in our garage. The heat of California summers can't be good for 50-year-old tape. So during Retirement 2.0, I finally buckled down to curate this huge project. I organized them by date, numbered each one, and put it all in a master Excel spreadsheet. I could digitize these myself, but realized that would involve over 100 hours. I know, what else am I doing, but no thank you. I outsourced that part to a company Bill had used in Pasadena. They were delighted, gave me a bulk discount, and did all the work for about $650. Once they gave me all the digitized files, then my work began, combining the A and B sides into one file and raising the sound levels. Then I put each one up on YouTube in one big huge playlist so that when my relatives have nothing better to do or are retired themselves, they can hear our family as they were in the early 1970s. Now, before I get rid of all the original cassettes, I am going through and listening to each and every file. Talk about waxing nostalgic. This is truly like taking a time machine back to the days of Vietnam. Papa Lloyd and Grandma May's tapes to their 25-year-old son, who is over 8,000 miles away, are a hoot. May and Lloyd having dinner. May and Lloyd cleaning up after dinner, having morning coffee before Lloyd goes to work. Their next-door neighbor, Mrs. Levitsky, coming over bearing her amazing matzo ball soup and talks in her thick Russian accent that I still can't understand. On one tape, Lloyd is obviously done talking to his son and says to May, "Babe, you want to turn this thing off and go smooch?" Hearing your horny grandparents is some fun nostalgia that you just don't hear every day. The tapes from my Uncle Tom are also very interesting. He went to Vietnam as a kid from Iowa, but quickly became an adult with a greatly expanded worldview. I am only halfway through the tapes, and we are up to June 1973. Tom is going to be discharged from the Army in 7 months, January 1974. His parents obviously want him to come home after that. However, Tom breaks the news to them in a tape that he has had a taste of the world, and that when he gets out, he and a buddy plan on traveling for an indefinite amount of time. First to Australia, then to the Far East, Kathmandu. Then he wants to end up in England and maybe get a teaching job or write a book. I am not yet to the tapes where he is discharged in 1974, but I know that he was having a great time and did not go back to Iowa. As it turns out, Papa Lloyd died unexpectedly later that same year of a heart attack at age 63. Tom had to cut his traveling short to come back for his dad's funeral and never left Sioux City to go back to his beloved Vietnam. In his pitch for traveling the world, Tom said, "I have to do this and get this out of my system while I can. I'll have 40 years to settle down after that." As it turns out, he only lived 20 more years, until 45, dying in a tragic car accident. The digitized tape from June of 1973 that I just finished ends with Grandma May saying, "We love getting pictures of you, Tom. You take care." and be a good boy. Okay, that one got me. My time machine whisks me back to 2026, and it suddenly dawns on me. What in the hell am I stressing about retirement 2.0 for? So I didn't get everything done this first year that I wanted to. Who gives a rat's ass? Waxing nostalgic back to the early 1970s has been enlightening and cathartic, almost like a living time capsule. They didn't have all the nonsense and algorithms and stupid doom scrolling that we have now. They were living for that day in all its complexities, fears, funny stories, and good Swedish food. Thank you, Grandma May, Papa Lloyd, and Uncle Tom for bringing home the point that there really is no day but today. Not to-do lists, not what has happened in the past stories. For me, retirement 2.0 is now all about today. I was only 10 years old in 1973, and my mom recorded a couple of tapes from Urbandale, Iowa, many years before I buried my time capsule. In Mom's tapes to the family, the time machine takes me back to life as it was back then. My traveling salesman dad being on the road a lot. His mother, my grandmother, on the other side, losing her house mother job at age 55 to a 20-year-old. Some things don't change. And my 2-year-old brother, Timmy, being so noisy in his high chair and described as a rascal with a mind of his own. My mom talks about having gone to parent-teacher conferences for me and my sister. I guess I was doing very well academically, but she was told that I talk way too much. I shared this with Bill last week, and he says, yeah, some things never change.
LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Ba 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 bum.